I'm Chosen Architect, and this is Project Architect 2 4.0. So just when you thought it was over, today I have something huge for you that is now in the latest update of Project Architect 2. So if you've been cruising through the EMC quest and of course gathering all of those creative items, you're now going to have an in-game where you can choose to use all of those items and EMC that you've gained for these late game challenges. You heard me right. We essentially just released an expansion for Project Architect 2. And so jumping into the quest book here, if you have finished up the Feeling Creative section and you're looking for more to do after completing that, well, now you have the in-game quest lines. That's right. All of these basically allow you to have EMC values that are utilized. So you have all of your compressed blocks that you can feed to this and gain a special item here. Now, not everything has EMC that is going to be required here. And just to put it in perspective, these are requiring 9 times compressed blocks. And most of these compressed blocks, which we did add a ton of compressed blocks, by the way, most of these compressed blocks here are going to be required in vast amounts. And that's for good reason. Now, of course, with them having EMC, most of the compressed blocks do have EMC. It's just a matter of feeding the quest those items. But that's not for everything. For example, the fallen stars. And this may seem like an absolutely ridiculous task, but I have recently added a recipe to the fallen star, and it's just all about you coming up with the creative way of actually farming said materials here. Now there's a whole lot more to show you, but before you get discouraged by seeing those large numbers, remember at this point that you do have creative items at your disposal, including the access to creative liquids and all kinds of other things. So you have creative gases, creative fluids, and you also have access to other creative materials, including power, at the point where you would get into this. Now in each of these chapters, once you've completed the major process here, you gain access to a creative bin. And the creative bin allows you to insert one item into it, whatever item that you want, well, minus a few certain items that are related to the major quest line. But once you sit there and get that one item, you can place it in here. It's going to give you a little bit of a warning saying, hey, you can't pull the item back out or exchange it once you do it. But as soon as you do that, you'll have an infinite amount of whatever item that you put in there. But keep in mind that it's not like creative where you can pull the item back out. You can only do that if you're in creative mode. So this essentially will allow you to have one item that is infinite, and there's going to be three separate ones that will allow you to gain, for example, 3 separate infinite items. And of course, there may be more things added in the future, but for right now, this is kind of where it stands. And some of these challenges are pretty difficult. For example, the hyperfluxing. This is going to require you to fill a unlimited or an ultimate bin with 262,000 of these 256k storage cells, but they have to be filled with power when they go into the bin. So it's something to keep in mind, and the bins are what's actually being used to store the items. So you notice here, you need 32 of the ultimate bins that are filled with 200,000 singularities. And of course, there's tons of ways of getting these items, so don't fear. Of course, with creative access to things, it is a little bit easier. And also with EMC, a lot of these tasks are very simple. They do, however, require a bit of infrastructure. And for those who love killing mobs, oh boy, there was a lot added in this last update where now you have some major challenges. For example, killing the dragon 256 times. Like I said, that sounds wild, but there are ways of actually doing this very quickly. Also, Deep Dark, you can see right here, you need a bunch of hearts from spawning in the Warden and killing them. Could be done easily with a farm. Now, this is a quest where you do have to go after the Chaos Guardian 8 times. Kind of limited the 8 times to make it easier on servers because they are kind of limited on servers, which is kind of unfortunate. But this one is probably one of the more challenging ones. But like I said, these are all like optional in-game things if you're absolutely wanting to have a challenge to go after. Speaking of all of this new stuff, there was a lot of changes and a lot of new things that were actually added to all of these blocks, these custom blocks. So now if you search up Chosen, you'll be able to see that these have uses. So there's a ton of different uses here. You can see now as a catalyst, this allows this to work very, very quickly. And if I was out of dark mode, you'd be able to see this. But the primary modifier 5 times, auxiliary modifier 5 times, energy modifier 0.9 times, and chance of use chance 100%. So it will consume it on use. But this does give all of these blocks some crazy uses. And we have ourselves the Infused here that allows you to use this block, but it also has another use we'll talk about here in a second. And then you also have the Architron block, which is also now a heat source. There's a ton more heat sources for the thermo generators and also coolant sources. So instead of just feeding it water, you can feed it other things, and it makes these very powerful. And there was also some power upscaling as well for the reactors, making them generate a bit more power than they were. But yes, all of these have a use. This is now also used as a catalyst, making it a very, very nice catalyst, and also a catalyst for the induction smelter. And the Archim meat also has another use. You can see blobs eat meat. So let's grab some Archim meat, and I want to spoil this. This is actually kind of cool, and kind of solves one of those problems that is actually down in the Wild Hunt for the Dimensional Slayer. This is actually going to be pretty straightforward to do because of the use of Archim meat. So for example, if I head off into the Power dimension here, and I am actually on the hunt for one of these blobs that spawn in the RFTools Dimensions. So here we go. We now have access to one of the blobs, and you can actually feed this to the blob, and it will end up changing this, for example, into a legendary blob. And then whenever you feed it too many, it pops. And as you can see right here, you actually gain a ton of this essence. And these blobs, by the way, can be summoned in with the RFTools mob summoner setup. So now with all of these changes, yeah, no more setting on like endless EMC and creative items with absolutely nothing to do. Now you have access with all of these challenges to use those powerful things that you've gathered. Now there's still more cool things to talk about, but I do want to take the time and thank Rick the Coder, who has been putting all of this time and effort into this particular update that you see here, and also some other nice features that have happened in prior versions. But this one in particular has been absolutely insane. So thank you so much. And also you can find the credits down here in the bottom. Shift and also Rick have been helping tremendously with this pack. Now, something else I want to note, all of this stuff is done via Cube.js. So if you're interested in learning how some of this stuff works, of course, you can find those scripts listed in the Cube.js folder of the mod pack, and you can do some digging there and potentially learn, because learning from examples is one of the best ways to learn how to code. So I just wanted to mention that before diving into this next part, which is insanely cool. So in most packs, you cannot facade pipes, and you cannot facade mechanism cables, or for example, Industrial Foregoing souls cables. Those are things that you just can't facade, much like you can facade, for example, the applied logistics cables. Well, you can in my pack now, thanks to Rick for this amazing script, which allows you to use framed blocks, and you can hold down Shift and right click them on these cables, just like so. And by doing this, it allows you to facade them. So you also hold down Shift to place the block in that you want it to be. And just like that, you now have the ability to facade, and you can use something like a wrench, by the way, to pop the facades back off. How cool is that? And you have to be looking at the cable to be able to do that. So if you've wanted to be able to facade stuff, well, now you can. And then something else to sort of mention, if you wanted to take a look at your facade, and you wanted to for example, modify something at the end of a cable and you can't see it, well, you can also hold down Shift and punch. And by doing that, it'll open this up so you can gain access to it, and Shift punch again to be able to close it back up. Now, remember how earlier there was an infused version of the archiveau? Well, if I go into my enchantment lab, this is kind of a setup that you can use to get these numbers. It is very, very specific on what it actually requires for you to be able to infuse this. So if you take a look at these numbers, they are very specific. So if you don't want spoilers for this and you want to figure it out yourself, of course you can go for it. But you can see right here, requires at least 67 to 68. And this one's also 55 to 57 with a maxed out Eterna. So to be able to get this infusion, you can see right here, I have my heart forged seashells that are in this formation here. And then I have 2 echoing shelves, 2 draconic shelves, and then I have some stone shelves that are also down on the back side here, and stone shelves here, here, and here, another draconic in shelf, and another hell shelf. And then I have a couple of skulls on that side and a couple of skulls on that side. And by doing this, and if we have 100 levels, we can actually infuse the archiveau, which is a very, very nice block in itself, having all of these stats in one block, which you will not find any other block that has, for example, the retrification in here, or the enchanting clues all in one block. Now, this infused block isn't just only used in that regard. It's also used in this setup here. So this is actually brand new and is also all script based, and it allows you to enchant any gear or tools and equipment that typically do not allow you to apply enchants to them. So the way you can do that is by setting up this little setup that you have here, which has an arcane core on the bottom, some platforms, just like so in this particular formation, and then of course a couple of source jars, and these can be creative source jars, by the way. And then what you need is you need a Godforged pearl. So I'll just take a Godforged pearl here, which you get this from Apotheosis by scrapping stuff. And then you need infused potions. So I am going to need Dragon's Breath, right? And so I need infused versions of the Dragon's Breath. Now, once you have those materials, for example, the Godforged pearl, and you also have the infused Dragon's Breath, you can then use this to enchant, like I said, any of those non-enchantable items. For example, the Qatar. So I have a book here that has looting and has Vorpal. Of course, you can add as many enchants as you want. And all I have to do now is punch it, and I'm able to see how much source it's going to require and what levels I actually need in order to do this. And so long as I have that infused cube right there, the infused archiveau, we should be ready to go. So I just right click this then, and what that's going to do is consume my levels. And it then has enchanted this thing that would potentially not be allowed to have enchants on it. So pretty darn cool. And you can also do this to your mech gear and all kinds of other stuff that would potentially not be able to be enchanted. Now, of course, all the documentation for this is in the quest book. So if you are playing this, this is going to be something you have access to. Pretty darn cool, in my opinion. But it is kind of later game, as you do need this block in order to, of course, get this. Oh, and just in case I forgot to mention, this is for the 4.0 plus update. So if you see the version number 4.0 or above, that is going to reflect all of the changes that you see in this video. Now, this video was definitely a update video, kind of describing what is going to be taking place. But in the next few episodes, I'm going to be diving deeper into how we're going to actually be gathering some of these items. And it's going to be a journey, and I'm looking forward to journeying through that with you guys. And hopefully you're excited about this, because it's the first time that I get to truly utilize all of these in-game items for an actual task. Oh, it's going to be nice. And so if you've enjoyed this pack or you've enjoyed this series thus far, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And of course, give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And be sure to check out the Discord. Discord linked down in the description below, or you go to discord.gg/ChosenArchitect and join the crew over there. There's a lot of cool resources that you can find. Tons of people post all kinds of cool things about their worlds over there, so definitely worth checking out. And with that being said, it's now time for me to thank you and thank the supporter of today's video. And that amazing thanks is going to go to Falcon. Thank you so much for your amazing support in choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. By the way, be sure to check out my Twitch if you haven't already. I know I've plugged myself enough in this video, but thank you all so much for playing this. And of course, we've reached, I believe, over 500,000 downloads over on CurseForge on this mod pack. So absolutely amazing. And of course, thank you all for playing this, and thank you for enjoying it. And I look forward to playing it more with you guys here in the future. So I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye, guys.